Hi, I'm Lisa Singer. I am the Senior Director Events Programming at MediaPost, and this is Brand Insider BTS, where I get to pull back the curtain on some of the most influential women marketers today. And with me is Esi Eggleston Bracey, and she is, long title here, let me make sure I get it right, President of Unilever USA and CEO Unilever Personal Care, North America. Hey, Esi.
Hey, Lisa.
Hey, I'm so glad you could join me with this. I saw you on LinkedIn. You were actually in one of my feeds from someone I was connected to, and I just read what it was about, which actually, congrats, you were nominated or you were inducted into the American Advertising Federation. So awesome. I mean, that's all about what? It celebrates the most accomplished people in the industry. So that's amazing. And I was reading that. And of course, then I snoop and I read more and read more. And it's just, you are doing so many amazing things. I was so happy that you were able to take the time to do this. I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Lisa. And it was really my privilege to accept that award on behalf of Unilever. Unilever is the 13th company that's actually been inducted in their more than 70-year history. And it's just one of the great reasons that I joined Unilever, because it's a company of purpose, and they were recognizing Unilever for its track record and consistency in being a company of impact, and that showing up in advertising. So in my position, I was thrilled and honored to accept that award on behalf of Unilever.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, Unilever, I agree with all of the things you guys are doing, but it's also, as I said, I do my snooping and I'm looking at all the things, the causes you're really a part of, and with Unilever and yourself, and you are a person of purpose. Like, that is completely in your DNA. Where did that come from? Obviously your mom, your dad, like what instilled that in you to become the person you are today?
That's such a great question. The way I was raised, like many people were, who much is given, much is expected. And especially being a woman of color, that was instilled in me early. My mother is a lawyer, but really as a lawyer, she's a civil rights activist. She takes cases for those who are underrepresented. She does race discrimination cases. She does divorces for women who are not able to easily get great attorneys. And so she's an advocate, and my father is the same. He was one of the first to diversify his university. He went to University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. He led something called Project 500, which brought 500 Black students to the college after the death of Martin Luther King Jr. So I just come from a track record of advocacy, and it was just instilled in me. And I've just had the fortune, wherever I have an opportunity, I feel like I have to create a way for others. Yeah. And I've chosen companies in my life where they reward me or give me the opportunity to do so. So, because of that, even before joining corporate America, I would do that on my college campus. It's just, part of our family values.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's such a great example of example. When parents try to teach their children things and they maybe tell them over and over again, but then they're doing something different. I mean, as simple as no cell phones at the table, whatever it may be. But obviously your parents led by example, and you have obviously followed that and continue to bring that. I mean, that's probably why you do end up at the Unilevers, but also maybe you bring some of that to the organizations that you go to.
I think that's right. A few things you said, actions speak louder than words. Especially for children, but I do think as leaders, there's one thing, Unilever, we talk about not having a say-do gap. It's important to take action and stand for what you believe, and then you can speak about that, not say one thing and do another. And I think my family has shown that. And I chose Unilever truly to make an impact and make a difference. I've been in this business more than 30 years. And my first 25 years, I spent at another company. I spent at Procter & Gamble, which I really enjoyed working for Procter & Gamble. But I had the opportunity to retire from Procter & Gamble. I went to work for Coty, and then after I left Coty, chose Unilever because I was very reflective on what I wanted to do next. And what I wanted to do next was a lot about making a bigger impact, doing more than just selling products. And I chose Unilever because I saw the opportunity to do more of what I had done, which is, sell products and make sure businesses are future fit, but also to have a broader impact. So, and I saw Unilever doing that. I wanted to be a part of it. And, with my purpose and intentionality, I bring even more of that to Unilever,
Yeah.
which is, what you said, and that, becomes a virtuous cycle.
Yeah, no, and you can see that. And I have to say, you talked about where you've been working, but you list on LinkedIn, which you don't see this often, sabbatical. And was that the time when you took to say, what can I do more than just promoting products? Or what was that? Because again, you don't see that a lot. People want to cover it up. They stretch out when they actually left, and you took this time for yourself. How important was that to you? And why did you choose to do that?
My sabbatical was one of the best decisions I made in my life. I can count like on the hand 5 amazing decisions I made, and one was a sabbatical. And it was exactly that. It was during that time that I honed my purpose. Up until that moment, I couldn't articulate why was I here on this earth. I'm very introspective, so I can share with you what makes me tick, how I get my energy. I'm very, very thoughtful and actually religious and disciplined about personal development and self-reflection. But despite that, after all those years, I couldn't articulate what I think I'm on this earth to do. And the sabbatical created that opportunity. I had been on the corporate roller coaster for those 25 years. I kept growing in responsibility. And then I became a wife, and then I became a mother of 2. Then I moved outside of the US and I lived in Switzerland for 8 years. But in that, I was running global business. So I'd wake up one morning and I didn't know if I was in Tokyo or if I was in, Riyadh, or if I was in the US. But that I enjoyed it, and that became a habit. But I needed a moment to just regroup, because I would establish principles for myself. And my world kept expanding, and then I would find those shifting. So when I say principles for myself, when I first had my daughter, I would say I have a 17-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old son. So they're older now, but back then, when I first became a mother, I said, I want to be home more often than I'm not. So in any given week, I will only travel of a work week 2 days, and of that week, not 3. So because I wanted to be home more. And then, that ended up unattainable. My life in a global, that's just not feasible. And I kept moving beyond what I thought were my values. And I asked myself, how did that happen? Because I'm very principled. I have a strong set of values. I'm very intentional. Like, how did my life get like this? Like out of whack based on how I liked it. So the sabbatical was intentional. It's a regroup to get off of the corporate roller coaster, get grounded in what who I was, what my purpose is, and what I want the next chapter of my life to be. And it was out of that I knew I wanted my next role to be something of purpose. And I actually considered moving outside of business and working in non-for-profit. And I took on during that period, I had 4 goals for myself, because I'm also goal obsessed. I'm very goal driven. And I learned that from being a gymnast when I was younger.
Oh my gosh, we have to go back to that, but go on.
And you learn how to, goal. That's being a gymnast. And so I had 4 goals for myself during my sabbatical. I planned to take 18 months off, a year and a half. One was to relocate from Switzerland to New York with my family, which it was in progress. And in that relocation, launch my kids into New York. My son was born in Switzerland. My daughter moved there when she was 3, and we had been there 8 years. So they didn't have a sense of my son. And more of their life was living outside of America. And I knew they would believe they would need the support of mommy in that, because, it's a transition, especially, being a Black boy and a young girl with identity in the middle of middle school. So I wanted to be there. So that was one goal. The other was to run the New York Marathon. I'd done that before, but I thought it'd be a good way to get to know New York. And because I'm so goal obsessed during my sabbatical, to make sure I was accomplishing something. The third was to say what I wanted to be when I grew up, to figure it out, right? And a part of that was discovering my purpose. So in that I did lots of interviewing of companies. I'd go on interviews having no interest in any of the jobs, but really interviewing people, learning about different disciplines was amazing. And then the fourth was to retreat and get centered in myself and like rest and sleep more than I had over the course of the year. And I accomplished most of those. The one that I fell a little light on was the sleep, because I was so energized by doing all those other things. And I was only off for 7 months, at that beginning of January 2018, because I started my sabbatical in April and May of 2017 was meant to be my deep rest and sleep. So I didn't fully get to that. But yeah, so you asked about my sabbatical, and that was a time of deep reflection for me. And I structured it as such.
Wait, we're missing, there was a fifth one. What was number 5?
Four. It was just
Oh,
four.
you did 4. Oh, I thought you said 5. I'm sorry. Well, I mean, not that 4 isn't enough. I mean, just throw in the marathon for me and I'm done. So, but I love that you did that, that you knew you came to a point in your career where you wanted to figure out what's, like you said, what do I want to be when I grow up? And that is something that I think a lot of us should sit back and ask. And instead of just kind of continuing on the, moving forward, just because, I mean, talking to someone, so someone starting out, someone who wants to be you, a woman starting out today, or, anyone, and, they want to be you, but obviously you took your own path. But is there advice you would give someone, like, so that they either can get to this kind of level of a success in the CPG industry, but also so they don't burn out, or so they do truly do what they want to do and what they feel they're meant to do?
Yeah, I am an accidental executive. I never set out to be an executive. I knew nothing about business. When I was growing up, I was a math junkie. My dad was a math teacher. I loved doing math. I would want to do my friends' math homework all the time. And I thought, because I was so goal oriented, I wanted to stretch myself to do something that was big. And I said that I wanted to be an MD, PhD in biomedical engineering because I love math. So I thought practical was engineering, although I had no role models, and I loved people. And so I thought doctor. And so I read something about biomedical engineering, PhDs, and there weren't any women in it, and certainly not any Black women. I thought, oh, maybe I can do that because a doctor, but it was very naive. I didn't know anything about any of those. So I discovered this career. So in terms of advice, I really believe in something called passion power, which is following your passion and achieving and creating goal, succeeding through your passion. And in that, my reflection is know yourself, be yourself, and share yourself with others. Because this combination of knowing myself, I was able to be honest about what things I really liked, things I was really good at. And I learned the MD, PhD wasn't right. I did not like being around sick people. I didn't like being in a lab. I really got to know myself by trying it on. I was lucky that I was able to network with people and experience as an intern or part-time jobs, what that could look like working at Argonne National Labs, working with lab animals. I learned quickly that wasn't for me, but I had to really know myself. I mentioned I do a lot on personal development and continue to do that. And then be myself, leaning into the things that I like to do and the things that I have as talents. And then sharing myself with others, because there's only so much you can know in life. If you think about a big circle, there's only a slice of it that we can see, but there are people around us that can see it or even see you. So in sharing myself, a lot of what I've done in my career were others saying, Esi, I think this would be, in knowing you, because I'm open about that, here's an opportunity that I think would be good for you. And that's what has led me to the role that I'm in now. I never set out to do it. So my advice again would be know yourself, be yourself, and share yourself with others. And through passion power, follow, listen to, what you're passionate about, because everyone's different. And I believe passion is a sign. I believe it's a gift from God to help us discover our calling. So those are that's the advice I would give.
Yeah, and I, especially in terms of you do what you're passionate about, you're going to do it better. You're going to be excited to do it. And I think then that makes you not only doing your job well, but as you said, sort of, because sometimes people don't want to say, they have other aspirations or they have other things, they're afraid, oh, you gotta just make sure this is the job, because you don't want, your boss to say, oh, she doesn't want to be here. But to voice those things, then people will see that passion and want to be a part of it and want to help. And you talk about this is something that you were like since younger, like, which is, you almost think at first when you were talking, I'm like, oh, well, not everyone has the luxury to do that at your level, because you do at your level can do that, but you've been doing it since the beginning. So I think that's amazing. And how did you, like, even talking about CPG industry, you've been in the industry for a long time. It's changing, but for a long time it was very male dominated, especially now as a Black woman coming into the industry. And you have these passions, you have this kind of, how was there a challenge there? Was there something that really maybe conflicted where you were like, can I get through this? Like, what did you face? What kind of obstacles, if any, during that time?
Yeah, I think at every phase there have been different obstacles. And I really do believe what you said. When you follow your passion, you're all in, right? And you learn that. And there's a bit of bravery to do that. And I can share with you points in my career where I've done that. People have asked me what I wanted to do. It's been unpopular, and I told the truth. I want to do this thing that's unpopular, but in terms of obstacles, when I came into corporate America, I didn't even know what business was like. I was an engineering major that came from, small undergraduate school. So the first thing I did was think that who I was not corporate. So I didn't even feel the obstacle. I didn't even feel like I could bring myself to the workplace. So I remember that showed up in how I dressed and how I looked, right? My hair was not blonde. I wore a straight brown bob, little glasses, and I wore it's certainly not glasses that look like what I'm wearing now. Very conservative suit. And basically, I just wanted to blend in. And I took cues from people around me that I could mimic so I could know how to be. It was not even conscious, it was unconscious, right? I didn't even know I was doing that I had this sense of insecurity. And then I learned to overcome that. I remember going to so in terms of obstacles to overcome, I went to a training session where there was someone leading the session saying how young women in corporate America historically have not looked up to more senior women because they have found at that time more senior women to in some ways have more masculine traits than their male counterparts. And what the trainer was sharing is that was not the fault of the senior women. You have to survive. You're in an organization where you are not the majority. So you take cues from what's around you and what you need to do to be successful. And that's human nature. It's just what we do, like almost survival of the fittest, if you will. Like, how do you survive? And I thought, oh, those women shouldn't do that. And I thought, I'm doing that.
Wow.
It was the biggest aha moment, because while I was doing that, I was always an advocate. I talked to you about my parents, what they were like. So I was involved in the Black affinity groups, and I was like standing up to do all these things like, for diversity, but I was still hiding myself. And so when that happened, I said, I'm not hiding myself anymore. I'm not doing that. But that was an obstacle I had to overcome within myself by looking around. It wasn't in other people saying you can't have this opportunity because of X, Y, and Z. Although there were some perceptions. I was young. I started as an undergrad, where many who started with me were business students, but it was more within me, that I felt that I couldn't bring myself, and because I didn't see anyone like me in the organization. So from that moment, I made a change.
Wow.
I cut off my hair. I cut off my hair, wore my hair naturally in this little short afro. I bought this red convertible Porsche. It was used. It really didn't cost any money, but no, I would have been, that's too flashy. I would never do that. But I was like, oh, this is cute. But, I would talk about on my lunch breaks going to get manicures. I love nails. And before then, I would go get shoe shines with the boys. And dating myself, people would go get shoe shines. And I made a constant change. I decided to start laughing in the office. Like if
Wow.
it was funny, because I laugh a lot, but not in the office. Nobody does that. But I did it because I didn't want to be like those women.
Wow. When did the glasses?
And I started wearing little different kinds of funkier glasses. That's so true. So it was right around that time because I wore these other I just decided. And it was the most uncomfortable thing I'd done, actually, if I'm honest with you, Lisa. It was not comfortable doing that. And so people think, oh my God, it's so cool. You just was so uncomfortable because I felt my way was, I don't want anybody looking at me. I'm just putting my head down, doing my job. And yes, I will advocate for underserved. Like I'll be involved in affinity groups, but not make any personal changes in myself. And so it was very uncomfortable. And then after about 6 weeks, maybe 2 months of it was amazing. It's like you don't realize how much weight you carry trying to be someone else. And the gift, I did it because I felt compelled to as an advocate, as a diversity advocate, that I needed to make a change. And so it's like I could breathe, it was like I got a pep to my step. And that's who I've been ever since. But that was my first big obstacle, was choosing to bring myself. It wasn't like I just showed up like, hey, I'm here and I'm doing this and that. I forced it into it. And once you do it, you really can't look back.
And when you did it, I'm sure there were those who were receptive and then those who maybe weren't so receptive. And did you just, by taking that step, like you said, you felt freer, you felt, you kept in your step. Did that make you feel stronger too, to like commit to it? Like, okay, if you're not liking this person, Esi, then that's okay. I'm going this way. I mean, what was your reaction?
I would say yes. You know how long ago this was for me? This was probably back in 95. So like a really long time ago. So my memory of it is once I did that, it was all good. That there was no obstacles. Why? Because that's my romantic memory of it all. Because once you make that choice, I wasn't aware. I was just doing me. Yeah. And I've never been too attached to my job. That's also been a help. Maybe very early on, again, when I was scared, but once I had that, I thought, I can always get another job. So if it doesn't work, so I tried to choose organizations that fit with my values. So it's not too uncomfortable. Whenever I end up in a role or with a manager or at a company that doesn't fit, I won't stay in that for too long. So my romanticized memory of it is, no, it was all good. If I'm really honest, it's because I chose that. I leaned into that bit on the confidence, and then I continued to choose roles and move away from roles, leave them, or choose. If I ever ran into trouble, I'm like, oh, it's time for me to leave. And then something would change. My manager would change. It would work itself out. So I would end up staying at the same company, but it was always willing to give something up for prioritize being myself ahead of being attached to a job. And so that gave me the freedom to take what some could perceive as a risk in being myself, but it in fact isn't a risk. It's a superpower.
Well, and that's what made you shine. I mean, Esi, that, I'm basically, this is who Esi is. And this is what makes you different from all the other people out there. So if you're going to shine for being who you are, you need to let people know who you are. So, I mean, but it's getting that aha moment and then having the courage to actually do it. That takes a lot.
Choosing places that support that.
Yes.
It's so important. That's the other advice I give to younger people and even older people is, life is too short. Find environments who support you in being you, because there's only one you, and trying to be someone else is a true waste of who you are. So, if you have look for those environments, and we have the privilege to choose that. I feel really lucky in that.
That's amazing. I love that. I want to actually get into speaking about the environment, Unilever now. And I like to usually take a little something from the brand and sort of throw it at you or throw it at the person I'm speaking with. So of course, you guys have what, like 400 brands, and with all little taglines. So I'm going to read one of the taglines and then I'm going to turn it on you. So we have Noors. So the tagline for Noors is, we're on a mission to inspire everyone to eat better for themselves and the planet. All right. So now, Esi, what do you, and it can't be something from Unilever, do you eat better for yourself and better for the planet? It could be the same thing or two different things.
Yeah, I really believe in that mission. And for me, I am a non-dairy pescatarian and a wellness junkie. So what that means is the only meat I eat is fish, and I don't do dairy. So for my, one of my hobbies, I would say, is wellness. And so that's me. So definitely for eating well. I'm also a foodie, so I love fine. I love great food. I love to cook. And my 13-year-old son, he's I'm a great cook. I humbly, my son is a much better cook. My son is an extraordinary cook.
Also pescatarian and dairy free.
Nah, my family, no. I've done my very best. My daughter is the closest to that, but they like to indulge more than I do. So I do personally try to model that.
The dairy would be tough for me. I love my cheese. That would be a tough one. But
I stopped eating dairy because I became allergic when I moved from Switzerland. Oh. And so, but now I'm grateful for it because it keeps me from keeps me from some of the yummy desserts that my son makes.
That is probably that's once you start, it just keeps going. All right, here's another one. For Dove, let's change beauty. So I'm curious, was there a time for young Esi that you wanted to change about yourself? Like when you were younger and you looked at yourself and said, I want to change this.
Yeah, I think Dove's mission of let's change beauty is so important. And what it means is really let's change beauty so it's more inclusive for all of us, so that we can feel beautiful. When I was younger, I didn't feel beautiful. I was a smart kid. Told you I was a math junkie. I was small, so I was kind of underdeveloped for my age. And I skipped a grade in school early. So then that made me even, in those teenage years where this is even younger. And so I never thought of myself as beautiful. I didn't fit the prototype. My hair, I wore it in short hairstyles and, in my day, long hair, so I didn't. And so, so in terms of what I wanted to change about myself, I think I was confident enough in who I was that I didn't obsess over it, but I just certainly didn't feel beautiful. So, but I remember someone asked me, if you had to choose the biggest compliment, if it's being smart or being beautiful or pretty, what would you choose? And I said, being pretty. Like, no, but when I was younger. And so I would want to change that. Why I believe those were.
Change the opinion. Yes. I mean, I think I couldn't imagine growing up in today's social media, because I think all of us felt something of that, and to then have it plastered everywhere, it would just be so difficult. And I don't even think I have to ask you this, but obviously I'm thinking those thoughts that young Esi had have evolved today to, you're this confident, beautiful woman in front of me. So, and smart. So, you must just, especially with what you always stand for, you must just embrace who you are.
Yeah. And that, that has been a journey, and it's a continued journey. It's just, we all we have is who we are. So, it's like, get on board. You got to, love the gift that you are. And I see that as treasuring the one body that you have, and, making the most of it. It's just back to doing you. And that has evolved for me. And at the same time, there are times where I'm like, oh, I need to get my hair done, or Like, I haven't worked out in 2 months, which is very unlike me, which is where I am now. And I remind myself, what am I committed to? What I'm committed to is being healthy and well and continuing to move. So I'm not immune from those thoughts of beauty insecurity,
Yeah.
but
No,
I'm conscious of them, and I try to manage them. But I feel so much, gosh, I don't want to go back to being the young me, because God, I'm so much freer now.
yeah, no, I think it's wonderful. And I have to go back to, since I said it at the top before we run out of time, you were a gymnast. Okay. Like competitive, like what level? We have Olympics coming up next year. I mean, is it there?
I was definitely not Olympic level, but in Chicago, I competed, and it was amazing. I loved what gymnastics taught me how to do. And I probably did gymnastics 4 or 5 times a week. It was not every day. I mean, I wasn't Olympic level at all, but it was so great, because what it teaches you how to do is, one, be independent and self-sufficient. But what it does is you set a goal that like a very stretching goal. You have to visualize yourself achieving that goal. So think, if you're trying to do a double backflip, you got to focus. You've done all the training. You have to see yourself reaching for that height, tucking properly, rotating and landing it. You envision it, and then you make that happen. And that's life, right? You
Wow.
create a goal, you envision yourself, and then you make it happen. And so gymnastics was amazing. And that's what, and it is what introduced me to fitness, right? The process. Imagine the calisthenics that you do. My daughter is a runner. My son is as well. I ran for a bit and then moved to gymnastics. And I think they're similar in that regard, but the kind of fitness that I needed to be a gymnast, it really is full body, I think has served me well.
Yeah, no, I think sports in general, I was into sports at younger, and I think it creates so many, just from team sports, being able to work with people and be around people, but also just this, like you said, the stamina it takes to do things, the, dedication, all of those things, I think help bring some, they do well for us as we get older.
And my relationship with my coach, I had the best coach, Coach Roger, who still does gymnastics to this day, which is amazing. And we still have a relationship. But I think it also teaches you a different relationship with an adult than your parent or your teacher, because it truly is someone that is coaching you and believes in you. And you have to have a different kind of relationship than I had had with adults at that time.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want one more question. As I said, I always do my snooping, and you had posted a photo of yourself in junior high, which is so cute. And if you could talk to her, you could talk to young Esi, go back to young Esi again, and tell her what to expect, what life is like now, what would you say to her?
The first thing that comes to mind is life is extraordinary. Then I go into life as an adventure. It's not a destination. And I think the young me, I thought it was a destination. Life is an adventure. And then I would also say to my young self, don't be afraid to dream. Because I think the young me was a little scared. Like, what do I need to do to be successful? It's like a fearful. I didn't know what, like what was fearful that I wouldn't be successful in life, even though that wasn't something I was actively driving. I was afraid. And so because of that, I wouldn't dream. I wouldn't imagine. I was more focused. I said I was goal oriented. And so I would say to my young self as advice that dream, and that life is about, what I see in my life is creating and experiencing new dreams.
Wow, that's wonderful. And I do think that people, seeing life as an adventure, I have been guilty of it myself, like seeing life as I have to get to this point, and you're not just enjoying, what's happening now, as opposed to going from A to B. And I think you need to just open up, and then, as you said, dream and just have bigger visions for yourself, but and enjoy it as it's happening.
Yes, enjoy the ride, because it's amazing, the now. And if you're always looking at what's next, there's no, you miss the joy in what you have. And it's great. Life is great. I have so much goodness in my life. And there's, there's more to be enjoyed.
That's awesome. Well, Esi, thank you so much. This was such a privilege. I really appreciate you taking the time. And thank you for watching. As I always say, if you know anyone you want me to pull back the curtain on, any fabulous marketing women, brand marketers, let me know. I will do my best to share their story. And Esi, again, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.